Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Brandon sent me an interesting case from the Charlotte Observer, which is an interesting newspaper. I actually went to Charlotte one time, spent a weekend going through their microfilm, looking at old stories about NASCAR, Charlotte being ground zero for NASCAR. But this is involving red light cameras, which we like to talk about in this program. Gary Robertson wrote this for the Associated Press. Red light camera program in eastern North Carolina city struck down. It was struck down. North Carolina city's red light camera program is unconstitutional because too little of the money it generates through penalties ends up with the local school system, the State Court of Appeals ruled on Tuesday. And that's an interesting thing when you have a law that says we're going to do this and earmark the money it raises for the kids, for education. So that was one of the big sellers of the lottery when I was a little kid. I remember them talking about the lottery is going to raise all this money for education. And apparently the red light cameras were introduced in eastern North Carolina in an attempt to raise money for the kids again. So an appellate panel decided unanimously that Greenville's funding framework violates the state constitution's directive that the clear proceeds of all fines collected must be used exclusively for maintaining free public schools. The city contracted in 2017 with American Traffic Solutions of Arizona to install and operate the red light cameras. Motorists photographed driving through red lights received citations and a $100 penalty. Two motorists who were cited sued the city and the Pitt County Board of Education, which ultimately gets the proceeds if everything works properly. The General Assembly had agreed that a local school board must receive at least 90% of the total fees and fines collected to meet the definition of clear proceeds. So 90% of the money's got to go to the schools. Instead, the Pitt School Board received over roughly a 2-year period 72% of the money after program expenses and fees to the contractor were paid according to the opinion. And by the way, the money they raised, $2.5 million. $2.5 million, $100 at a time from people alleged to have gone through a red light. Writing for the opinion on Tuesday, Judge Griffin said the local authorities are trying to frustrate the public's wishes by arguing that Greenville meets the standard by initially paying the school board 100% of the money collected, only for the board to return amounts equal to fees and expenses afterward. The school board paid the city $700,000 in expenses, of which $582 were fees for American Traffic Solutions, or 23% of the total. So apparently the law said you can put the traffic cameras up, but the money they generate's got to go to the schools. Well, apparently somebody came along and said, we can put these cameras up, but it's going to cost you. And they said, well, we can't do, oh, wait, we got an idea. So the money will go to the schools, and then the school will pay you. Isn't that a solution? No. The clear purpose of the people in mandating that the clear proceeds of such fines be faithfully appropriated to the public schools cannot be circumvented by the elaborate diversion of funds or cleverly drafted contracts, the judge wrote in reversing a lower court decision. Roughly 20 North Carolina towns and cities have been authorized by the legislature to operate similar traffic control photograph programs. The General Assembly authorized the first such program in 1997, and it's possible that the state Supreme Court could take up this case. So as of right now, the appellate court has ruled on this. The state Supreme Court has not. In a separate ruling on Tuesday involving another motorist, the Court of Appeals panel upheld the decision of 3 trial judges who had rejected an argument that the 2016 law creating Greenville's red light program was unconstitutional because the state constitution prevents local laws relating to health. The appeals court cited a state Supreme Court decision, but appeals judge Richard Dietz wrote Tuesday that the trial judges had gone too far, ruling that the underlying traffic cameras permit only some cities to operate programs doesn't relate to health because the motorists had not specifically challenged the law. Whether the underlying red light traffic camera legislation is an unconstitutional law relating to health is a question that must wait for another day. So apparently there's a law that says municipalities can't pass laws regarding health. And somebody said, hey, red light cameras, that involves my health somehow. And a court said, no, that doesn't make any sense. But with respect to red light cameras themselves, the legislation that enables them, that makes them legal, says specifically in North Carolina that the proceeds, the bulk of the proceeds, the clear proceeds, must go to the school system. And when they're installing the cameras, the contractor who installed them said, well, it's going to cost you some money. And somebody did the math and said, well, we can't do that because it would be economically unfeasible. And it is an interesting question that they would pass legislation saying you can do this so long as this percentage of money goes to schools, because it might not be doable for the amount of money it takes to set this up. And of course, that's not the fault of the motorists, and it's not the fault of the schools. That's the fault of legislatures passing laws that are impractical. But again, that's not the fault of the motorists, and it's not the fault of the schools. So the schools are wrong to try to circumvent this by pulling the fancy maneuvers with their contracts and so on, as pointed out by the judge. So red light camera program in eastern North Carolina city has been struck down. And so now I suspect that other cities will come under scrutiny as people are going to say, let's see the books. Let's see the books as to where that money's going, how it's being spent, and how much of the clear proceeds are going to the school districts to help the kids, And I've mentioned before, I delivered the Detroit Free Press as a young man. It's the morning newspaper. So in the morning, I'd get up. In the summertime, it'd be light enough to where you could read the newspaper while you walked. And I walked my route a lot of times. And so I'd be walking along reading the paper in the morning. And so I was pretty well read for a kid. And I remember when lotteries first came to Michigan, it was simply the three-digit and the four-digit lotteries. So you could pick a three-digit number and bet on it, a four-digit number. And it just seems silly to me. But I thought to myself, well, they're raising money for education. That's a good thing. But just simply looking at it, you understand, the odds are so simple to calculate. What are the odds that you can pick a three-digit number? Well, I don't know. How many three-digit numbers are there? I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult to figure out. And likewise, with a four-digit number, then you look at the payout and you realize, of course the state's going to make money on this. But they said, well, we're going to do this for education. And then, of course, look what's happened. We've got all kinds of mega, super lotto, jackpot, multi-state, dimensional things going on. But I'm not a big player of these things. But I've got no problem with them existing. I mean, if people want to bet their money on that, and if that money makes even the slightest dent in the Treasury, I'm happy with it. Because if it raises some money for a good cause, great. I'm not contributing, but what are you going to do? So Brandon sent me that from the Charlotte Observer, and Gary Robertson wrote it for the Associated Press. Red light camera program in eastern North Carolina city struck down. And I do have a special program announcement. Doc Thomas is having a birthday today. So he's in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. And Doc Thomas, I'm not going to say how old he is. I know how old he is, but I'm not going to say. But Doc Thomas is a viewer of this channel in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. And some family members of his who are also followers of my program sent me a note and said, Steve, could you wish Doc Thomas a happy birthday on his birthday, which is coincidentally St. Patrick's Day. So it's easy for us to remember. March 17th. It's Doc Thomas's birthday today. So I want to wish Doc Thomas a happy birthday, as do his loved ones. And I also am pretty certain that the vast majority of my subscribers and viewers on this channel would like to join me in wishing Doc Thomas a happy birthday. And that is Doc Thomas of Manitowoc, Wisconsin. Happy birthday, my friend. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Try to be a rainbow in someone's cloud.